I always believed a woman's heart is like a house, with rooms. Some rooms stay open, warm, full of laughter, and others stay locked. Not because we want them locked, but because life taught us it's safer that way. My daughter, Maria, used to live in the open rooms. She trusted people too easily, loved too quickly, believed promises spoken in soft voices and warm hands. She was 22 when she married Thomas. I remember the day she came to me, sitting on the kitchen counter like she did when she was 10, swinging her legs and shining like the sun. Mom, I think this is it. I think he's the one. I looked at her, and I saw hope. Not the childish kind, the dangerous kind. The hope that makes you blind to shadows. Thomas was polite the first time he came to our home. Polite like someone reading from a script. He brought roses. He shook my hand like a businessman sealing a deal. He told me he intended to take good care of Maria. He did not look at her when he said it. He looked at me. That was the first red flag. But love makes young hearts deaf to warnings. Maria was radiant on her wedding day. White lace, bare shoulders, soft curls pinned back with small pearls. She looked like a girl standing on the edge of a cliff, convinced that the drop is just a breeze. Thomas's family arrived like they owned the air everyone breathed. His mother, Carolina, stepped out of the car wearing a gold dress at my daughter's wedding. Not subtle gold, not champagne, gold, like she wanted to make sure no one noticed the bride. She kissed air beside Maria's cheek and said, "Sweetheart, remember, perfection is expected in this family." I remember the way Maria's smile stumbled for a second. Just 1 second. Then she straightened it, forced it back into place. That was the second red flag. But weddings move fast. People toast. People dance. People pretend. No one looks too closely at anything except me. Mothers always notice when something delicate is about to break. A year later, Maria called less. She visited rarely. Her voice on the phone changed, not sad, just a quieter, like someone walking on snow. I asked if everything was all right. She always gave the same answer, "I'm just adjusting." "They're different, Mom. They have expectations." I asked what kind of expectations. She never answered. But silence is an answer. The day everything shifted, it was Sunday morning when my phone rang. I was watering my gardenias on the porch. The light was soft. The air smelled like rain was coming. Maria's voice was small. "Mom, I'm pregnant." There should have been joy. There should have been brightness, laughter, plans. But her voice cracked on that last syllable. "Are you okay?" I asked carefully. She exhaled the way someone does when they've been holding their breath for too long. "It's complicated." I closed my eyes. There it was. The locked door. The room she wasn't ready to show me. 2 weeks later, the storm hit. Maria came to visit. She walked into my house, shoulders stiff, face pale, hands shaking even while at rest. She looked like a ghost wearing my daughter's face. "Tell me," I said. Not softly. Not sharply. Just steady. She sat down at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around her mug like she needed it to stay upright. "Thomas is happy about the baby," she began. But her eyes told the story before she did. It wasn't Thomas she was afraid of. It was his mother, Carolina. Told her she was trapping her son. Said Maria did it deliberately to secure her place. Said women like her with no proper pedigree use children as leverage. My daughter cried that night, quietly, the way a wounded animal does, not loud, not dramatic. Just tired. So very tired. I offered her to stay. She refused. "He's my husband, Mom. I have to try." I didn't argue. A mother can catch a child when they fall, but she cannot stop them from stepping into the hole. The breaking it happened 1 month later. Maria, now visibly pregnant, came to their family dinner. Thomas's relatives sat around a long carved dining table, polished until it gleamed like a mirror. Carolina lifted her wine glass and with a smile said, "Well, since mistakes happen, we'll adjust. But do try not to embarrass us, dear." Maria told me she felt something fracture inside her chest. A small sound, soft, final. Later that night, Thomas walked Maria to the door. He didn't fight for her. He didn't defend her. He didn't speak. He just said, "Don't make this harder," and shut the door behind her. She came to me. In the rain. In silence. Her coat soaked, her hair dripping, her body trembling. I wrapped her in a blanket. I made tea. I held her. No words, no drama, no anger. Only truth. "You are not going back," I said. She didn't argue this time. She only laid her head on my shoulder and cried like a child. Maria stayed with me. Not for a week. Not for a month. For as long as it took for her to breathe again. In the mornings, she would sit on the porch wrapped in my old wool blanket, hands resting on her stomach, watching the trees sway in the wind. She didn't speak much. Grief doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes it comes with silence. I did not press her. Silence can heal too when it is allowed to. I cooked for her. I made sure she slept. I put my hand on her back when the nightmares came. She never said what happened that night in detail. She didn't need to. I already knew. A mother can read pain like a book. The birth when the time came. It was early morning. A quiet hour. The world was still. Maria woke me with a whisper, "Mom, it's time." So I held her hand through each contraction. Through the fear. Through the breaking. Through the rebirth. People talk about miracles in loud voices. But real miracles are quiet. They come in the shape of small hands, soft skin, and a cry that sounds like the first breath of the world. The doctor placed the baby in her arms. A boy, warm, red, blinking at the light like he was confused to be here. Maria looked at him, and I watched something inside her unlock, a room she had kept closed since the world broke her. Her voice was barely a whisper. "He's mine, not ours, not his, mine," and I knew in that moment she had come back to herself. The recovery Maria grew stronger day by day. She learned how to swaddle, how to nurse, how to calm him with just the sound of her breath. Her voice changed. Her spine straightened. Her eyes sharpened. Motherhood didn't break her. It rebuilt her. Piece by piece. Sometimes strength doesn't shout. Sometimes it arrives like a quiet dawn, the return in evening after dinner. Maria was changing the baby when there was a knock at the door. It was soft, almost hesitant. She froze. I didn't. I opened the door. There he stood. Thomas. Same polished shoes. Same expensive watch. Same posture of a man who believes the world owes him a reply. But his face was thinner, tired, older. He had come to collect what he thought was still his. "I want to see my son," he said. "Not my wife. Not my family. Not forgiveness. My son. As if that word still belonged to him. I didn't speak. I just looked at him. And for the first time, he felt seen. Not admired. Not adored. Not indulged. Seen. He swallowed. "Maria needs me." He tried. Maria stepped into the doorway. The baby in her arms. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She didn't tremble. She just said, "No. I needed you. And you left." Thomas opened his mouth to speak. But she wasn't done. "And now, I don't need you." He looked at the baby, at her, at me. And realized there was no fight here. There was nothing to win. The house did not belong to him anymore. The air did not bend to him. The child did not know his face. He stepped back, trying to salvage pride from the ruins. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. Maria held her son closer. "No," she answered, just as quiet. "I already regretted staying." He left, and the door, when it closed, did not sound like loss. It sounded like freedom. Peace never lasts long when it threatens someone's control. For a while, things were quiet. Maria and the baby settled into a rhythm. Late night feedings, warm baths, small soft breaths pressed against her shoulder. I would watch her sometimes, rocking him gently, humming that same tune I used to hum to her when she was small. And I'd think, "We are healing, we are coming back to life." But peace makes insecure people nervous. And Carolina was very insecure. The call happened on a Tuesday. My phone rang in the afternoon. While I was slicing peaches in the kitchen, the voice on the other end was smooth, practiced. The type of voice used to closing charity galas and firing staff. "Eleanor," she said as if we were old friends, "I believe we should talk, woman to woman." I didn't respond. The silence made her uneasy. "We'd like to arrange visitation for Thomas." She continued, "It's important for the child to have a father." I let the silence stretch longer. Then I spoke. "Where was that importance when your son closed the door in my daughter's face?" Her perfect tone cracked just enough to reveal the steel underneath. "Let's not be dramatic. Young couples fight. Mistakes were made. It's time to move on." I didn't raise my voice, but I did sharpen it. "We moved on. You're late." And I hung up. The pressure begins. Carolina didn't give up. People like her don't know how to let go. They only know how to control. First came the polite messages, then the guilt, then the sudden concern. Is Maria mentally stable? Then the suggestion, maybe the baby would be better in a more stable home. That was the moment I understood this was not about love, family, or even Thomas. This was about possession. About image. About owning the narrative. The baby was not a grandchild to her. He was a reputation asset. Maria begins to change and Maria read every message. Not once did she break, not once did she soften, not once did she respond. The same girl who once bent herself into every possible shape to be accepted, now stood straight. Calm, cold, unmovable. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just refuses to kneel. The visitone evening, I walked into the living room and found her sitting there, baby asleep on her chest, her phone in her hand. She didn't look angry. She didn't look scared. She looked decided. "He wants to see him," she said. I waited. She lifted her head and met my eyes. "But they don't get to decide how." Her voice was steady, controlled, exact. "We'll meet on neutral ground," she continued. "No house, no family, no audience, no power plays." She paused, then added quietly, "And if he loves this child, he will show it without being told to." I nodded. My daughter, the same daughter, who once tried to earn every room she entered, was no longer asking for permission to exist. She was choosing the terms. The meeting chose a small public garden. Open space, sunlight, people around, no stage. Thomas arrived alone. No Carolina, no cameras, no rehearsed sympathy, just him. He stood a few steps away, hands trembling, breath uneven. Maria held the baby, her posture relaxed, not guarding, not giving, balanced. He looked at the child the way a man looks at a life he thought he could delay catching up to. Like regret was oxygen, and he suddenly remembered how to breathe. He didn't reach for the baby. He didn't demand. He just whispered, "I'm sorry." 3 words, late, small, soaked in consequences. Maria watched him, not cold, not forgiving, just seeing him clearly for the first time. "You didn't break me," she said softly. "You just taught me to stop expecting you to be someone you can't be." Not cruel, just true. He nodded. And for the first time since I had known him, Thomas looked human. Not polished, not posturing, just a man, standing in the wreckage of his own choices. What comes next? Some stories don't end with revenge. Some don't end with reconciliation. Some end with clarity, and clarity is a kind of freedom. Maria didn't take him back. She didn't shut him out. She simply set the terms. He could visit. He could learn to be consistent. He could grow if he chose to. But the child would grow in a home where love was given freely, not bargained for. And Maria had finally chosen herself. Astor's time has a way of revealing people for a while. Thomas visited consistently. He held his son carefully, asked small questions, learned slowly. He didn't try to rush Maria. He didn't perform for praise. He simply learned. I didn't forgive him, but I saw effort. Carolina, however, did not. When she realized that guilt, pressure, and family duty no longer worked, she changed tactics. Legal tactics. The letter had arrived in a white envelope, thick paper, cold language. A petition for shared custody. Not from Thomas. From Carolina. The grandmother, who had never once held the child, never visited, never asked about his health, his sleep, his name. But she wanted rights. Not because she loved him, but because control was slipping. Maria read the letter in silence. Her face didn't change, not anger, not fear, just stillness. Then she said, "Mom, call Uncle Ray." Uncle Ray wasn't a lawyer. He was family. And in our family, when we say call Ray, it means we are done being polite. The corp didn't dress fancy. Maria wore a soft gray sweater, hair pulled back, no makeup, no jewelry. She didn't come to impress. She came to tell the truth. Carolina arrived in a tailored suit, pearls, silk scarf, heels that clicked like punctuation. She smiled at everyone like cameras were rolling. Thomas stood behind her, not proud, not certain, just tired. When the judge began, Carolina spoke first. Her speech was polished, trained, full of rehearsed concern. "We only want what is best for the child, a stable environment, proper opportunities, access to culture, education, refinement." She never once said love, not once. The judge noticed. Judges always notice what is missing. When it was Maria's turn, she didn't clear her throat. She didn't straighten her papers. She didn't recite anything. She simply held her son and spoke softly. "My child is not an asset, not a symbol, not a legacy piece. He is a person." She didn't look at Carolina. She looked at the judge. "There was nothing unstable in my home. There was nothing unsafe. There was nothing neglected. The only thing I left behind was cruelty." She paused. "He is growing every day, learning every day, laughing every day. I don't need wealth to raise him. I only need peace." The room was silent. Real silence, not awkward, not tense. Respectful. Even the judge leaned back slightly, as if letting those words settle into the walls. Then Maria added, even softer, "They didn't want me. They just don't want to lose." That was the moment the case ended, not legally, not officially, but morally. It was clear who loved that child, and who loved control. The decision judge ruled, full custody remains with the mother. Thomas received visitation under Maria's terms. Carolina was granted nothing. No rights, no influence, no access. She left the courtroom with her chin high, but her eyes dark, like glass cracking from the inside. Thomas lingered. He approached Maria slowly. Not to argue, not to beg. Just to speak. "I'm sorry," he said again, this time. There was no performance. Just truth. Maria nodded. "I know," she said. Not forgiveness, not reunion, just understanding. And that was enough. After life did not become magical overnight, but it became real. Maria laughed again, softly at first. Then like sunlight returning after a long storm. The baby grew strong, curious eyes, warm hands, unburdened by history. And sometimes Thomas came by to visit. No drama, no shouting, no promises, just presence. People don't always change fast, but some do learn. And some lessons take time. Maria no longer needed to be loved to feel whole. She was whole already. It's strange how life settles after the storm, not suddenly, not cleanly. It just finds its shape again. Maria built a new rhythm: work in the mornings, laughter in the evenings, a house that smelled like coffee and baby lotion instead of fear. Sometimes I catch her staring out the window, the way I used to when she was gone, and I'd see the peace that comes after choosing yourself. People think healing is loud, that it's screaming, or smashing plates, or announcing freedom. But real healing is quiet. It's cooking dinner and realizing halfway through that your hands aren't shaking anymore. Tom Ash still visits sometimes, never stays long, just enough to bring a toy, ask how the boy's doing, and leave. Maria never asks questions. She lets him try in his own awkward way. Some wounds don't close, they just stop bleeding. And Carolina? I heard she moved to Florida. Big house, ocean view, no one to talk to. Some people chase control until there's no one left to control. The porch every evening when the sky turns honey-colored. I sit on the porch with a cup of tea and listen to my grandson's laughter. It's a sound that fills the spaces where pain used to live. Maria joins me sometimes. She leans against the railing, arms folded, eyes soft. She doesn't talk about the past anymore. Not because she's forgotten it, because she's learned from it. Mom, she said once, do you ever wish things had been different? I looked at her. At the child playing in the grass, at the house that finally felt like home again. And I told her the truth, no, because if they hadn't broken us, we never would have learned how strong we are when we rebuild. Crossing people think strength looks like fire, but sometimes, it looks like a woman standing in her own kitchen, holding her child, smiling at nothing because the silence finally feels safe. That's the kind of story I like to tell. Not about revenge, not about pain, but about the quiet power of survival. Because in the end, love isn't about who stays. It's about who learns to stand when no one is left to hold them.